A worldwide alert on the falling Soviet spy satellite, a march in Washington on the 10th anniversary of legalized abortion, and a decision on one half of the Super Bowl lineup in Washington. Washington beats Dallas. Good evening. I'm Jessica Savitch, and this is NBC Nightly News. The Pentagon tonight says it now knows approximately when the debris from the Soviet satellite will hit the Earth. That's between 12:53 p.m. tomorrow and 12:53 a.m. Eastern Time, but it still does not know where it will fall, as Fred Francis reports.
O2 is in two parts. The Soviets claim they separated the nuclear core from the more than 4,000 pounds of what is now nuclear hot debris heading towards Earth. The United States Space Command is tracking the debris as it tumbles and spins from its decaying orbit. This evening, it is 102 miles above the Earth. The command said late today that it would re-enter the atmosphere between noon and midnight tomorrow. And it will burn. According to Pentagon sources, there is a substantial amount of rocket fuel which will ignite upon re-entry. That and the resistance with the atmosphere could produce a fiery comet for several minutes. It orbits the Earth every 86 minutes in such an erratic way that scientists can't say which hemisphere is most endangered until 6 hours before re-entry. And not until 1 hour before impact will even a general area be known. The Federal Emergency Management Administration is in charge of coordinating the cleanup if the Soviet satellite does strike the United States. Its Deputy Director, Lee Thomas, said there is less than a 2% chance of that happening. But if it does, the danger is significant.
The most dangerous part of the satellite is the part of the satellite that will be coming down tomorrow, in that it is the largest part of the satellite, the part that will have pieces that will not burn up in the atmosphere more than likely, and they are highly radioactive.
Federal Emergency Management will respond only if the radioactive debris hits the United States, Canada, or Mexico, though the administration has said it will send help anywhere in the world if asked. But the exact location may remain a mystery for a while. Scientists and tracking specialists warn that if they miscalculate the re-entry time by just a few minutes, they may miss the area of impact by a few thousand miles. Fred Francis, NBC News, Washington.
10 years ago today, the Supreme Court ruled abortion legal. Once again, there was a march this year protesting that decision. That following yesterday's presidential endorsement of a bill saying the Supreme Court erred and prohibiting use of government money for Medicaid abortions was expected to bring out this record crowd in Washington. But as our law correspondent Carl Stern reports, that was not the case.
January 22, Washington, D.C. Join thousands from across our country who will again march for life.
There were thousands today. Police put the figure at the start of the parade at 26,000, about the same as last year. The threat of rain in a big football game may have affected the turnout, but it was only the latest sign that the anti-abortion movement may have crested. New figures show it was outspent by the so-called pro-choice political action committees in the recent election. A national poll showed public interest in the abortion issue is fading, and the long-neutral League of Women Voters came out this week in support of the right to abortion.
It is absolutely a matter of individual right of privacy, constitutional right of privacy.
On top of that, a memo leaked this week showing concern at the National Right to Life Committee that Senator Jesse Helms may have outlived his usefulness after his efforts to win Senate approval of an anti-abortion constitutional amendment fizzled. An embarrassed Right to Life Committee had to publicly repudiate the memo.
We had absolutely nothing but the highest regard for Senator Helms. Senator Helms has been a maximum leader of our movement in the Senate, as has been Senator Hatch, as have others, but Senator Helms has stood out.
Today, in his weekly radio address, President Reagan pledged to work with the new Congress to outlaw abortions that are not medically necessary.
I, too, have always believed that God's greatest gift is human life, and that we have a duty to protect the life of an unborn child.
But at the moment, it's likely that only future changes in the Supreme Court's membership might lead to changes in the law, not Congress. Of the 7 justices who voted for abortion 10 years ago, 5 are in their mid-70s and near retirement, and the 2 others are already gone. Abortion clinics are involved in 5 cases pending before the court, but they'll be decided long before the president gets to change the court's membership. Carl Stern, NBC News, Washington.
3,000 people lined up for 35 jobs in Pennsylvania. That story is next. The Sun Oil Company in Chester Township, Pennsylvania advertised openings for 35 workers, and 3,000 people showed up today to fill out applications. In fact, many of the job seekers got in line last night and braved 16-degree weather all night just to get the applications. The 35 jobs are engineering and apprentice positions at Sun Oil's Marcus Hook refinery. Next Wednesday, applications will be accepted for another 35 openings. The recession has eased in a couple of areas, and home building is one of them. The construction of new houses went up in December and is still up. This is not yet a recovery, but it's a lot better than a couple of years ago when home building was at the lowest level in nearly 40 years. Dennis Murphy reports on the housing turnaround.
The home builders may have overstated the case, but they finally have something to celebrate, no matter how small. Interest rates are coming down. People are buying homes again. The builders believe they are emerging from the industry's worst slump since World War II.
Activity's picked up quite a bit in the last 4 months.
For instance, lookers, buyers, what?
Both.
It was just a nightmare almost. It was for me, but it's turning around now, it seems to be.
My own personal view, that fellow in the White House is not a friend of the housing industry.
This year, contractors expect to build 300,000 more houses than they did last year. With interest rates at 13% and lower, some families are shopping again. Lower interest rates mean the average mortgage payment is $230 a month less than it was a year ago.
They're coming out, they're kicking the tires, they're looking, they're making deals, and as a result of these sales are up about 40%.
But the builders are not sure they're out of hot water. 6 years ago, this was one of the biggest conventions in the United States. 60,000 attended. Now there are a little more than half that many in the Astrodome. The home builders see themselves as caretakers of the American dream of every family owning a home. But the industry has only begun a fragile comeback. Despite the fireworks and flashing lights, no one is expecting an explosive recovery.
Our apologies on that. When new housing construction picked up in December, the demand for building materials brought the lumber industry out of a 3-year slump. David Burrington reports on this new activity in the forests and on the fears that some of it may not last.
Main Street in Northern California always reflects the health of the lumber business, and retail sales are already up as much as 15% in some stores. Loggers who normally don't work in winter are suddenly busy. Unemployment, as high as 25% in one county, is dropping dramatically. One company here has reopened 8 lumber mills since the beginning of the year. It's gone from 0 production to 90% capacity in a few weeks. The reason is a sudden demand for lumber that sent prices soaring, up an average of 17% this month, probably the sharpest increase in history. Glenn Herman worked only 6 months last year and put off any major purchases.
Things look a lot better this year, and we've been nursing a sick washer and dryer along for a couple months now, and we're thinking now about going out and buying a new one.
Industry analysts point out that inventories of lumber were at rock bottom last month when housing starts increased. This triggered panic buying by wholesalers, which has already dropped off. So nobody's sure how long the lumber boom will continue.
Well, I don't think it's going to last very long. The increase in building starts stimulated all of this activity, but they've already showed a slowdown, and I think 3 or 4 months is about what we can expect.
Any sustained housing boom, analysts say, will require still lower interest rates and a boost in consumer confidence. David Burrington, NBC News, Eureka, California.
Leadville, Colorado is a one-industry town hard hit by the nation's economic slump. Leadville depends on minings, and its mines are closed. But as Fred Briggs learned, the people there are not giving up. They're trying to find something new to do to help turn their town around.
Once it was Colorado's second largest city, 60,000 people. That was in the heyday of gold and silver, the 1880s and 90s. The roughest mining town in the West, they call it, not without reason. And heaven help a squatter who tried to claim jump. The boom ended at the turn of the century, but another kind of mining came in, molybdenum, which is used for toughening steel. The Leadville area became a fairly stable community of 8,000, mining and refining molybdenum, until the slump in steel. The mines began laying off a year ago. More than 2,000 workers idle now.
We have told our employees that we will not open until at least April.
The unemployed miners are in a one-industry town without that industry now, and few are looking for jobs elsewhere.
There's no jobs going on, so where can you go?
Leadville is going through the same ordeal as Detroit, Youngstown, or Pittsburgh, but being a lot smaller and being where it is, its chances of finding another industry may be much better.
I think our best shot is the tourism business because we do have the scenery, we've got the history, we've got excellent fishing lakes, we've got a ski area, and we've never really capitalized on the tourism business.
There is scenery, Colorado's highest mountains, and there's a modest ski area just outside of town that could be developed into a bigger one.
We're going to have to attract money in from outside.
With land around here going for as little as $700 an acre, that money may be on the way. It will take some years, especially the restoration of the old buildings, but that is what Leadville hopes to do. Its best future may be in making the most of its past. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Leadville, Colorado.
And this note, E.T. has become the movie industry's biggest money maker ever. The little space creature took less than a year to pass the amount earned in 5 years by the old champ, Star Wars. Movie fans have paid $194 million to see E.T. The film is still playing in 800 theaters and is still collecting $2 million each week. Back in a moment. The Navy today put into service what it calls the most sophisticated warship in the world, the Ticonderoga. The Navy claims can defeat any missile that is designed to destroy ships at sea. Secretary of Defense Weinberger was on hand for the commissioning. David Hazinski has this report from Mississippi.
Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger is worried about maintaining the quality of sailors who will man the new guided missile cruiser and perform other technical jobs in the military.
Ticonderoga men, man your ship.
Weinberger says substantial increases in military pay over the last 2 years have been a key factor in improving combat readiness. And he says even if the budget deficit prevents pay increases this year, he'll fight to get that money back.
We should do everything within our power to make up for that next year when economic conditions improved, and I am pledged to do that.
But Weinberger also wants more money for ships like the Ticonderoga. It has more electronic systems than a video arcade. Its heart is a computer defense system capable of detecting and tracking hundreds of enemy airship and submarine targets at the same time. An earlier sea trial showed off the weapons the computer directs. 2 rapid-fire miniguns, 2 5-inch deck guns, and an assortment of missiles, all necessary, its captain says, for electronic warfare.
We're going to go into the high threat area, and with our defense in depth requirements, air, surface, subsurface, this is the kind of ship we need in the battle group.
But the Ticonderoga cost $1 billion, and the Navy wants as many as 24 more. Weinberger will probably have to fight a deficit-conscious Congress to get all of them and more pay for military personnel. David Hazinski, NBC News, Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Argentina has denied reports it plans harassment of British troops in the Falkland Islands. The Foreign Ministry issued a statement pledging that Argentina now wants a peaceful solution to the dispute. Earlier this week, U.S. intelligence sources were quoted as saying that Argentina was preparing air attacks on the 4,000 British troops in the Falklands. OPEC ministers have gathered in Geneva to head off what they fear could become an oil price-cutting war. OPEC has been out of the driver's seat for a long time now as oil prices took a sustained drop, and now most OPEC members want to hold the line, as NBC business correspondent Mike Jensen reports.
The ministers began arriving today for a hastily called emergency session. A session some delegates here say will end either with huge production cuts or a drop in the official price of OPEC oil. For almost 2 years, the OPEC ministers, meeting often in this same hotel, have been trying to save their cartel. With worldwide demand for OPEC oil declining, the 13 OPEC nations have been stealing each other's customers and cutting prices under the table. At recent meetings such as this, OPEC has tried to reduce its overall production to get rid of the glut. Saudi Arabia, which was producing 10 million barrels of oil a day 18 months ago, has cut its production to less than 5 million barrels. Kuwait, which was producing 1.25 million barrels a day 18 months ago, is down to 650,000 barrels. Kuwait's oil minister, Ali Khalifa al-Sabah, arriving for tomorrow's meeting, gave the official line.
We will definitely try to defend the current price, okay? But that needs the cooperation of everybody.
So there will have to be some further cuts in production?
Yes. By everybody.
But Sheikh Otaiba of the United Arab Emirates told NBC News that might not be good enough.
I don't think the solution will come only through controlling production.
Saudi Arabia, whose rulers own huge villas here on Lake Geneva, hold the key, along with their Arab allies. And sources close to the Arab delegates say they are talking about price cuts of $2 to $4 a barrel if the OPEC overproducers don't agree to very large production cuts. Members such as Iran, Libya, and Venezuela. Sheikh Yamani of Saudi Arabia already has assurances from Libya that it will cooperate. But Iran is another matter. It seems unwilling to cut back much on oil production. Venezuela, which used to be an ally of Saudi Arabia within OPEC, a dove, has become a hawk. Says it won't cut back much either. It needs the money. Tonight, the OPEC ministers are meeting privately in small groups, setting their strategy. Tomorrow morning, they go at it formally in what is expected to be one of the most divisive, most critical conferences in OPEC's history. Mike Jensen, NBC News, Geneva.
French police stormed a prison in Marseille today to put down a convict uprising. More than 200 inmates had climbed onto prison rooftops and had demanded that the government install reception rooms in which they could meet their families and friends. Police, using tear gas, forced them down. 12 inmates were hurt. The Washington Redskins earned their first Super Bowl berth today in 10 years, beating the Dallas Cowboys 31-17. There was plenty to cheer about among Redskin fans in a town not accustomed to good news. Robert Hager reports from Washington.
It was just the tonic this government town needed. Instead of worrying about budget deficits, Social Security, and national unemployment, Washington went crazy over its Redskins. And the opposition was the team Washington fans love to hate the most, the Dallas Cowboys, the Skins' fiercest rivals. The president's men were there, James Baker and Michael Deaver, Senator Laxalt of Nevada, and others. Dallas scored first on a 26-yard field goal by Raphael Septien. But the Redskins came right back with 2 touchdowns, including this 20-yard pass from Theismann to Charlie Brown. Washington was ahead by 11 points, and several blocks away at Jenkins Hill Bar on Capitol Hill, the crowd watching on TV loved it. Then just before halftime, a rough break for Dallas. Quarterback Danny White was hit hard, getting a pass away, suffered a concussion, and was out for the game. But his replacement, a 24-year-old named Gary Hogaboom, threw a scare into the fans with 2 touchdown passes, and suddenly Dallas was within 4 points. But the Redskins poured it on. A kickoff return by Mike Nelms for 76 yards. And later, the play that finally put the Cowboys away, a pass batted away and picked off by a huge defensive lineman named Darrell Grant. The score was Washington 31, Dallas 17, and that's the way it ended. But not before the two teams accidentally left the field with 12 seconds still left to play. After it was over in the dressing room, the Redskins gave thanks in prayer. President Reagan called to congratulate Coach Joe Gibbs, but the coach had trouble hearing.
I can only catch part of what you're saying, Mr. President. I just thank you for the call, though.
Monday, it'll be back to the dreary business of budgets and the economy here. But tonight, this capital is savoring its victory over the Cowboys. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
The other half of the Super Bowl will be decided tomorrow when the New York Jets play the Miami Dolphins in Miami. In Corpus Christi, Texas, postal workers called in the police when they found a ticking package outside the post office there. Police x-rayed this package and found some complex wires and other gadgetry. They called in an Army bomb squad who destroyed the package, then opened it to find the remains of a Pac-Man game. The local postmaster said whoever sent the game in can file for damages. That is, if they fill out the proper forms. We'll be back in a moment. Finally tonight in Vermont, Stowe used to mean snow. Then along came a hog farmer. Nancy Fernandez reports some residents think the slide from ski slopes to pig slops is a pretty tough one.
28 inches of snow fell this week in Stowe, Vermont, a welcome sight in this ski town. But these pigs are not welcome in Stowe. Town officials want them out. The pigs live in this 16-acre meadow along Route 108, a busy road lined with the motels which accommodate skiers and tourists. A local developer wanted to build another motel in the meadow, but his neighbors opposed that idea on environmental grounds.
You know, if they don't want a motel there, we'll accommodate them. They want a farm, we're going to give them a farm.
So Ramsey brought in the pigs and a few head of cattle. Now motel owners like Lou Bell want to get rid of the pigs.
I think it's a case of a man trying to get even with some of those people who opposed his motel for other reasons.
Right now, there are only 13 pigs in the meadow, a spot known for its scenic beauty. But townspeople say developer Norman Ramsey has plans to put 400 pigs here. Ramsey denies it.
Well, it's not a commercial piggery, it's a farm. I don't know, this whole thing was blown out of proportion. Everybody's calling it a pig farm, which in effect it isn't.
In the center of town, the pigs are celebrities. At the general store, pig bumper stickers and posters are for sale.
Would you want a waxless or a wax squeeze, sweetheart?
Ski shop owner Dave Couch says he likes the pigs.
I have nothing against motels, but if it were to be my druthers, the idea of seeing pigs and the cattle that's wandering out there looks a lot nicer.
But town officials disagree, and they've asked for a court order to have the pigs removed. Nancy Fernandez, NBC News, Stowe, Vermont.
And that is our report tonight. Tomorrow's guest on Meet the Press, Senate Majority Leader Howard Baker. Chris Wallace will be here tomorrow night. I'm Jessica Savitch. From New York, thank you, and good night from all of us at NBC News.